I've always been fascinated about Africa in general, and you can't blame me if it is Gambia in particular.
I was really excited to participate in the Africa study visit as it was an opportunity to explore and learn about a part of the world I've never been to. It was my first opportunity to travel to Africa.
It's my first time visiting Africa.
Well, I had never been in Africa before.
I have lived almost all my life in the Gambia.
So I was curious from the first semester when they introduced this module.
And I have seen Gambia the way most Gambians say it. So going out there on an academic visit was going to give me the opportunity to see Gambia in a different light.
I also heard from the ones who had attended this study visit in the previous years, and they really encouraged me and told me that I would learn things that I won't learn in the classroom and that it would be an amazing experience. So I decided to try it.
It was my first time to the Gambia. I've always wanted to go to the Gambia. The Gambia is in a very interesting part of West Africa. It is the part that I normally work in, which is the Sahel.
Additionally, I was really interested in the opportunity to learn more about the experience of conducting fieldwork. I've done some fieldwork independently, but to go with a team of experts and with colleagues to really dig deep into the process of conducting interviews, debriefing with colleagues on those interviews, and then turning it into a coherent essay at the end, I think is a really invaluable experience that I'll be able to apply in whatever I end up doing next.
So as I come from the cultural field, everything related to culture is very attractive for me, and I think getting to know the people and getting involved.
Conflict is very complicated, as well as keeping peace and trying to reconcile all of the wrongs that have happened during the recent history. And I think actually being able to go there and to speak to the people and experience the culture a little bit gives you a little more depth to the actual issues that are happening.
And now this was a very unique moment of coming to the Gambia, where there's a new government in place that seems much more open than the previous one.
What did I think of the country? It's a tiny country, but it really reminded me of Colombia, and I could relate very well to it.
I had to do a lot of reading to begin with, academic literature that was related with the issues that we had to confront when we are there. So I had to read a lot, and even from the reading itself I realized that there were a whole lot of things that I thought I knew about the Gambia but didn't quite know.
I think that if you look at the touristic areas, if you look at Banjul, the capital, you get one impression, but when you actually go out to upstream of the river Gambia, you get a facet of your thoughts. Is development happening? The youth, will they have more jobs in the future? And I think you can ask all these sorts of questions.
The Gambia is at a really interesting time in their political history, and so the opportunity to be on the ground, hearing from people who were there during Jammeh's reign, who experienced the crisis and who are now leading the transition, was absolutely incredible.
You do the academic work, searching for data. At the same time, you have fun with very nice colleague, and you see another place with another culture.
One of my favorite experiences was the opportunity to sit in on the TRRC, or their transitional justice program, and the opportunity to sit in the room to hear from people who were victims, as well as to hear from perpetrators of crimes during the Jammeh reign, to be surrounded by people who had lived through that experience and now were watching their government. This was really powerful.
When we went out there, we had about 15 different people. We visited different places, we talked to different people, and the questions that were being raised, the concerns that were being raised, especially with the reflections part, I mean, opened me up to a whole lot of things that I actually didn't think about.
Something that Caught my eye was the hope that people were feeling after the election in 2016, and they were expecting something really big and a very sudden change would happen in how the government is run and how the country is going to be in a very short term. And I had that experience in my own home country after elections a few years ago. Changes cannot happen suddenly, and there are not enough resources, and of course there are problems in any government, so people start to get disappointed. So that was something that I could see some similarities between. But in contrast, I was very interested in how the religion is being practiced as someone coming from the same religion, but in a very different practice. So I was really curious and then amazed by how one religion can be interpreted in a very different way.
The day were very structured in the sense that we had a timetable, we had a plan of who we were going to meet at what time, and then it was a question of getting up in the morning, getting ready for setting off to wherever it was, depending on the distance we have to travel. But here we got an all-round knowledge, not only on our interest areas, but also on many other facets, whether it had anything to do with security, whether it had development, humanitarian, gender, natural resource governance, everything was there after the interest of the group.
It was a good adventure to go, especially with the university, to these places. It's safe and everything was organized. We did a lot of meetings with people in governments and civil society. In reconciliation, we went to see local people. How do they live? What do they eat? Many things was really touching their lives.
We actually got the opportunity to go to Jamjambure, which is a little bit further inland. Most of the time we spent in the capital city because there's a lot of actors that we got to speak to there. But we spent a couple days where we went more inland to see what are the rural areas like, how do the rural people feel about the situation, because oftentimes it can be quite different than what it's like in the capital city. You have mosquito nets around your bed and you have a very open sleeping environment. So for a lot of students, this was a completely different experience for them.
Actually, Jamjambure was for me a challenge. For me, is going camping. It's something normally I avoid. I don't like to go out of electricity, out of connection, out of everything, and with a place with like certain kind of food, and I have this phobia from insects, but everything was good. Seeing the sunrise from that boat in the river, talking to locals, dancing around the fire in the evenings, all of that actually you feel that it deserves. And it's a good adventure and it's like going out of your box. So yes, it was a challenge, but it was a nice challenge for me.
We were actually lucky enough to be in the Gambia on Independence Day, which was great. And then the other second thing that was really quite unique about our trip was that we actually had a Rotary Peace Fellow decided to come with, and he's from the Gambia. So he got a really unique perspective on his own country, which was great. But then also we had kind of an insider, and he invited us to celebrate the Independence Day with his family at his house. It was great. We spent the day underneath some mango trees. We had palm wine, massive bouquet of food, fish and all sorts of greens. Everything was being grilled and the smells were lovely. People got up and gave speeches. Everybody was in chairs seated around in a big circle, and the kids were running around and dancing, and we even got our professor to get up and dance. It was a great opportunity to really experience some local culture and to experience what the Independence Day is like for local people in the Gambia.
We also had the opportunity to visit a textile market where we got to sit down with an artist and learn how they made the dyes and then hand dyed all of the textiles, and that was a really beautiful opportunity to get to see a local craft in action. Another fun tradition or opportunity, and one we've carried with us since we've come back, is drinking baobab juice, which is a local delicacy. So it's made out of the seed of a baobab tree.
So the chance to be in a group of students with very different backgrounds and very different expertise. So we had the chance to talk about whatever we were seeing and whatever we were experiencing. So we were analyzing things together, things that you cannot do it on your own.
It has not changed my sense of Gambianness and my pride as a Gambian. I saw a whole lot of things that were really very beautiful. I saw people who were genuinely kind, who were genuinely beautiful, who genuinely want the best for themselves and are struggling towards getting that.
That awoke all my passions and interests.
Absolutely exceeded my expectations.
It was a very fantastic experience in all aspects.
I think it was a wonderful experience, a life-changing experience as well.
Was something amazing.